The Champions League is back, and there's a lot of drama going to be happening during these midweek fixtures. There's some box office games, but there's also some box office betting tips that especially Ollie is going to guide us through. So where do we start? Well, I guess we'll go with Bayern versus Inter Milan. Over the last few years, Inter Milan have managed to kind of insert themselves as now one of the top teams in Europe, but Bayern are also looking good as well. So, Ollie, where's the value in this, and what kind of narratives do people need to be aware of before this big game in Germany?
It's a repeat of the 2010 Champions League final where Jose won it with Inter 2-0. And yeah, like you mentioned, Inter have really come into their own in the past few seasons and have emerged as sort of the dominant Italian team in Europe. They conceded just one goal in the 8 group stage matches, which was considerably lower than any other team in the competition. They've sort of gone under the radar a little bit, I think, because they don't have the same superstars as a Bayern Munich or some of the other top teams. This one will be a tight game. It's not a classic Bayern side, this. You know, they've got some really good players, but they've never really managed to make it work. There's a few square pegs in round holes and that kind of thing. I say this, but actually Bayern's defence across the season has been better than Inter if you look at expected data. So Bayern have conceded roughly about 1 XG per game and Inter have conceded about 1.1. So yeah, maybe a bit of an overperformance from Inter and a bit of an underperformance from Bayern. I'm not expecting this one to be a goal fest by any means. I think Musiala is out for Bayern Munich and they'll be relying on Harry Kane. He's got 10 in the competition so far, which makes him the second top goal scorer. And he's been averaging over 1.5 shots on target per game. And I expect him to have a shot on target in this one. I think if Bayern are going to win this, then it will have to go through Harry Kane. And we know how good he is at dropping into deeper positions and losing his marker and getting shots. So he seems to play in multiple different positions at once, Harry Kane. I don't know how he does it. So I'm going with Harry Kane shot on target. I'm going to pick my favourite under 4 goals in this one. And I'm also going to go for a Bastoni foul. Bastoni averages 1.4 fouls per game. So he'll have the unenviable job of marking Serge Gnabry, Leroy Sané, or most likely Michael Elise. So I expect him to commit a foul in this one as well.
It's a hard one to call, and for like the reasons that you explained, because Inter Milan come into this in a 10-game unbeaten run. You know, Simone Inzaghi has done really, really well. And I think what's maybe a little bit different with Inter Milan, and maybe gives them their strength, is that they're not a team of stars. You know, there are stars in there, but Bayern Munich has, you know, the standout Harry Kane, and maybe you can mark him out of a game, whereas every kind of player seems to get involved. And so they have 17 different scorers so far this season. And what's amazing to me is we've even seen like the defenders. So 8 goal involvements from Denzel Dumfries, 10 from DiMarco. And do you think that maybe there might be a little bit of value there for a bet as well? So maybe a shot from one of the defenders being Dumfries or DiMarco. I can see one of those two who like to bomb forward, who like to get involved with the attack, getting a shot off.
I would just be a little bit cautious because I think Denzel Dumfries might not play. It's not been confirmed by Inzaghi, but it's the talk is that he's potentially injured and will probably miss this leg and the second leg. So I'd be cautious about that one. DiMarco averages over a shot per game. So he could be a good choice, but I think Inter will go to Bavaria looking for a draw and a low-scoring game in this one. I'd expect the defenders to play as a 5 at the back and really sit in. So I'd probably leave that for the second leg, I'd say.
Okay, kind of looking at, you know, our data here on the numbers game, and I'm going to have to go with it with the fact that Bayern Munich are the more likely to win, but also because they are at home. And I would like to couple up with something, you know, like a Harry Kane shot. I'm going to go with under 4 as well. I've taken the lead from you. But
I've got you on board with me, haven't I?
But
I've recruited you to the under 4 cult.
Yes, I'm fully in. But I will put DiMarco down for a shot as well, because like you said, he averages over 1 per 90. And I think in this game, where it could be fine margins, and especially when it comes to the end of the game, things might get leggy. There might be an opportunity there that Inter Milan just want to exploit. He has that ability. He has that want. I'm putting 4 things down as kind of like a little group there. And just to clarify, what is your one once again?
Yeah, so my pick was Harry Kane shot on target under 4 goals and Bastoni to commit a foul.
That's
I
lovely.
think I think Inter will take a lot of encouragement from what Celtic did when they went to Bayern. I mean, they really made it difficult for Bayern, and if it wasn't for a last minute goal by Alphonso Davies, who is also injured, Bayern would have been in big trouble.
I think last season showed some of their fragilities, and like you said, this season there are still some issues, and I think the loss of Musiala is a huge one, who is definitely ruled out. So let's turn our attentions then to the game that means the most to me: Arsenal versus Real Madrid. I think this one's really hard to call, so I'm going to throw it over to you, Ollie. Does it even matter with Real Madrid in the Champions League? They could be doing absolutely dog crap in terms of domestic. They could have lost 10 games in a row, but they always turn up for the Champions League, don't
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in my mind, these two teams are almost on different ends of the spectrum in terms of the way that they set up ideologically and in pure footballing terms. I think it's a good fit for Arsenal, but yeah, they're sort of on the opposite end of the scales. Arsenal play a sort of system football where they're greater than the sum of the parts. The players move in sync, and they're built up from the back forward. And Real Madrid are very much top heavy. They play vibes football. They're just full of Galacticos. And Arsenal historically have sort of struggled to get over the line in the past 15, verging on 20 years now, whereas Madrid are the opposite. At times, like you mentioned, play some bad football. They don't look interested, but they always find a way to get over the line. So I think stylistically, it's not a bad matchup for Arsenal. Now, how much emphasis we put on the sort of intangibles of the Real Madrid effect. I'm past the stage in my sort of life now where I'll underestimate that. So many times I've thought this Madrid side, they're in bad form or they're going to meet the match, and it seems to never turn out that way. So I was shocked looking into the data for this match, absolutely dumbfounded that these two sides had only ever met once before, and that was back in 2006, where Arsenal won the first leg at the Bernabeu 1-0, thanks to a Thierry Henry goal, and then the second leg was 0-0. So Arsenal went through 1-0 on aggregate. I was certain that they'd have met more than that, given Real Madrid's European pedigree and Arsenal of the sort of last 30 years have been in the Champions League most years. So I think it will be an interesting game. I imagine that given the fact it's at the Emirates, given Arsenal's as I mentioned, the system that they play, the way they like to dominate the ball. I think Arsenal will control this game, and I think that in some ways that kind of suits this Madrid side. Right, they're so good on the counter, and they'll be looking to make it more of an end-to-end kind of game. It's impossible not to mention the fact that Arsenal will be missing Gabriel at the back. I think he's such an important player for them. His leadership and his ability at set pieces, as well as his defensive solidity with Saliba. I mean, they're probably one of the best centre back partnerships in Europe. Arsenal have the third best defence in the top 5 leagues. It's one of those games where it'll be absolutely box office football, I think, from both legs. And this is the pick of the games for me. I think I'll be watching this one for sure. And therefore, it's quite difficult to make a pick. What I would say is that I like backing Jude Bellingham to commit a foul when he plays against English teams. I don't know whether I've not got any data to back that up, but it just always seems to be he has that little bit more bite in him. So yeah, my picks are Bellingham foul, and I'm going to go with Saka shot on target because I expect him to start in this one. I think Arteta's been easing him in. Across the season, he's Arsenal's most prolific goal scorer and taker of shots, if that's even a word. And I think Arsenal will be relying on him in this one. He will be he will be the main man.
I think there's a lot to be said about this game because, like you said, the recent form of Real Madrid fills me with hope, and people have to take into account that obviously I am an Arsenal fan, so I probably do have a bit of bias here. But looking at their recent results, it's kind of the antithesis of Arsenal. Arsenal have had a lot of problems with goal scoring, but they keep shutting out teams, and so they're boring games, but we don't concede a lot. Whereas Real Madrid are scoring lots of goals, but they're conceding a lot as well. And my question to you when I've kind of gone through these results is that the antidote to Real Madrid? Because they lost 2-1 to Real Betis in La Liga. Then they had a 2-1 win against Atletico in the Champions League. 2-1 win against Rayo Vallecano, but then they went out to Atletico after losing. Then it was another 2-1, 3-2, that amazing 4-4 game against Real Sociedad. And then they lost 2-1 to Valencia this weekend. And so they haven't kept a clean sheet in all those games. The last clean sheet came all the way back to the Copa del Rey semi-final in February. This isn't a good defense that we're talking about. They are Pure Vibes FC. And is the antidote to Pure Vibes FC kind of glorified Stoke FC, which is Arsenal? We're not that bad. But we are reliant on set pieces, good throw-ins. Is that the way to get round Real Madrid? Because of all that amazing attack, Gabriel will be absent, but I think we have the personnel to play even without them. And also, coming into this game, Real are still kind of fighting for the league and they're not playing particularly well, whereas Arsenal are basically out of the title race. And you could see that with the decisions this weekend against Everton. We rested a lot of players, so they'll be coming in fitter. So I'm backing Arsenal for that one. Does that come into your thinking that Arsenal can basically scumbag their way through?
Yeah, listen, and I think you're doing Arsenal a little bit of a disservice there, saying that their attack has been poor because that's it been in the Premier League. But
Yeah.
actually, Arsenal, and I know this is skewed a little bit by the fact you beat PSV 7-1, but Arsenal have scored more goals than Madrid in the Champions League this season, or more goals per game. Sorry, I think the answer to your question is yes. I do. I think that Arsenal's style of play is the sort of antithesis of what Madrid are set out to do. And so I think, yeah, if I think Arsenal have got as good a chance of beating Real Madrid as any other team would in the competition. And I think that had Atletico Madrid gone through, that would have been stylistically a worse fit for Arsenal. I think you playing against a low block would have been much more difficult than coming up against a Madrid side who, at some point, and we know what Madrid are like, they might only do it for 30 minutes across the two legs. But at some point, Madrid are going to have to go backs to the wall and just attack. And I think it'll give you opportunities in this game. Now the question is, do you have the players to exploit that? Saka, a fit and firing Saka, more than enough. But with him just coming back from injury, remains to be seen. Martinelli on the other wing, he's just been eased back as well. Marino, is he the quality of striker that you need to put a dent in Madrid? We'll see. It all remains to be seen. This is all feeds into the narrative of how fascinating this game is going to be.
Yeah. So final kind of words on bets. Do you want to go first, Ollie?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm backing Bellingham to commit a foul, and I'm going to back that Saka shot on target because I think Arsenal will dominate the ball, and they'll be looking to Saka to make something happen.
I'm going to go with an Arsenal win, Saka shot on target, but also an Mbappe shot on target as well. But I might even go so far as to say a win to nil for Arsenal because I think they'll,
Wow.
yeah, because the defense is so good that maybe a double chance is better. So Arsenal to win or draw, but I just don't see Real Madrid scoring in this one. They're going to want to make the Emirates a fortress. This is arguably the biggest game that Arsenal have had in Europe for God knows how long, since probably, getting to the European final. But that wasn't in front of the home crowd. And this is the box office event. Tickets are going for thousands of pounds. Fans are really, really looking forward to this one. And I think it's going to be a cauldron of noise. And so, like I said, let's say double chance, Arsenal to win or draw, shot on target from Saka, and also a win or no goals from Real Madrid. Barcelona versus Dortmund is up next. And this one, Barcelona are firm favourites, not only to win this, but also are firm favourites to win the whole thing. That's how good they're playing at the moment. They're unbeaten in 2025. Yeah, well, what are the kind of things that people should be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that shocked me when I learned that Barcelona were the favourites to win the competition because they're not a squad rammed full of experienced, players who have won this competition before. I know they have Lewandowski, obviously, but there's a lot of young players in there, and I know that they've been playing brilliant football. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see that. I have to say, I thought it would be Real Madrid actually. Just given the fact that they won it last year and that they've added to the squad since then. But they probably are worthy favourites. As you mentioned, they're unbeaten in 22 games. And in 13 of those 22 games, they've scored 3 or more goals in. So they're just an unbelievable team at the moment. Across the season, they average nearly 3 goals per game, which is bonkers stuff. All of their attacking players have been on form. Rafinha he's the top goal scorer in the Champions League so far. What a player he is. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, he was good when he was at Leeds, but he has just stepped it up so much. And the legs that he gives the team is so invaluable. Lamine Yamal, obviously, unbelievable talent. The kind of player that, can make something happen out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Lewandowski, seasoned professional, 37 goals this season and 29 appearances in all competitions. I mean, just ridiculous numbers. Dortmund, on the other hand, they are just, the most inconsistent team you could possibly imagine. They've been more consistent in the Champions League than they have in the Bundesliga, and we saw last season that they do have a kind of a fighting spirit in them that got them all the way to the Champions League final without really playing amazing at any stage. And I think that same sort of spirit has carried them this far, although I do think that Barca will have just too much firepower for them. I really do. Funny enough, and I don't think many people would have expected this, top goal scorers in the Champions League so far have been Barcelona. Second top goal scorers have actually been Dortmund. So they are not, for all that we think about Dortmund in terms of they're lacking that star quality that they used to have when they had Bellingham, they had Haaland, and they had Jadon Sancho. They are still scoring a lot of goals. And Guirassy, a player I always like backing to have a shot on target because he seems to have a shot on target in every single game. And so I'll be backing that here as well. I also back Lewandowski's shot on target because I just think that Barcelona will be peppering Dortmund at some stage. And Lewandowski is just that poacher, that seasoned professional who gets on the end of all the crosses. And he's playing against his old club. And I am such an old club merchant that I just can't resist. I'd back him to score, to be honest, but I bailed out last minute. I also think there'll be goals in this. I mean, how could there not be?
I was going to say you got back Lewandowski for this one. With the form he is in, I think you do have to go one above. Maybe go with this goal or assist just to ease your nerves, ease the worries. The gulf between Barcelona, not just against Dortmund, but also in La Liga. I mean, just looking at these stats, it's outrageous. 83 goals already. Real Madrid are the second most with 63 goals. But coupled up with that, the best defense in the league with 28 goals conceded. This is a team. Sorry, the second best defense. That always goes to Atletico Madrid, but 29 goals conceded, incredible. And then an expected goal difference of, get this, plus 41. It is incredible data. Whereas, as you said, Dortmund, they're not looking particularly great. They're the fourth highest goal scorers in the Bundesliga, but also ranked 8th in total. They're not having a good season at all. 11 losses. They have a lot of fragilities. They concede a lot. 43 goals conceded this season. So I think there'll be a lot of goals for Barcelona. I don't know if Dortmund will score. But like you said, in Europe, it's a different kettle of fish, and they do play a little bit better there. Is it worth, instead of going under 4, do you want to go on something like over 2.5 goals or over 3.5?
Are you reading my slip? You're reading my slip here, aren't you? Yes, it's exactly what I've got on my slip. Over 2.5 goals, I think. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was 3-0. Never mind, 2-1 or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Madrid really do Barcelona really do put the hammer to them here.
It's at home as well, which makes a big difference. Okay, let's lock in those final bets then. Ollie, what are you going with?
I'm actually going to go with a Guirassy shot on target just simply for the fact that I think Dortmund will have their moments, and I love backing Guirassy to have a shot on target. He's had 25 goals in 24 matches this season. He averages more than a shot on target per game. He scored a lot of goals in the Champions League, and I think that Dortmund, for all their woes, I think they will get opportunities in this game. Having said that, I think Barca will beat them quite handily. I wouldn't be surprised, as I mentioned, if they got steamrolled even. So I'm going to go with Guirassy shot on target, Lewandowski to score or assist, and over 2.5 goals in the game.
I think I pretty much agree with you there on everything. So I don't have anything to add to that? On to the PSG and Aston Villa. But just before we get on to that, I want to remind people, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, but also do head over to the Numbers Game for a lot of this data. A lot of it is free. This is the amazing thing about the Numbers Game website. If you do want those added extra insights and extra quality to your decisions, whatever you're doing with football, whether you're betting, playing fantasy football, the data is great on there. Ollie, do you want to remind people quickly what are the memberships available for people?
Yeah, sure. So the Premier League is completely free, as Jason mentioned. So you get access to AI-powered predictions, get access to all manner of data, predictions for both teams to score over 2.5 goals, over 3.5 goals, clean sheet percentage for both teams, percentage predictions for each player to score, each player to get carded, most likely score lines, all powered by AI. And you also get access to all of the data that powers those predictions. So head-to-head data, recent form, team stats, this kind of thing, XG. £3.99 gets you the top 5 leagues in Europe, and also access to the Numbers Game Discord, where the resident tipster gives a daily tip. £12.99 gives you access to over 50 competitions, and £24.99 gives you full access to the tipster package, where our tipster gives tips on everything under the sun. So he's giving Grand National tips, UFC tips, basketball, football, all data backed. And he explains his reasoning for those as well. So yeah, head to numbersgame.uk.
Lovely. So let's go into the final game. And I think this one could be a shock one as well. We'll get onto our predictions right at the end. But, you know, people are going on about PSG, that they're playing magnificently well. But I do have to say this, and, you know, Ligue 1 fans are probably going to, you know, come in and say, sacre bleu, you know, have a right go. I think you can't take in PSG's account and the fact that they've once again demolished everybody else in the league. It's just not fair. It's just not a fair comparison. The only kind of benefit of the doubt that you give to them is the fact that they played well against Liverpool. But this is a Liverpool team that has been faltering recently, and they're playing an Aston Villa team managed by Unai Emery, who are just coming into form at the right time. I think that this is going to be a closer tie than the data is giving it for. I think this is going to be a closer tie than a lot of the pundits and analysts are giving it for. I can see Aston Villa actually causing a bit of a shock here. But Ollie, talk us through your picks. What are you kind of focusing on?
This is as good a time as you could have had so far in the season to play PSG, and as worst time as you could have had to play Aston Villa. Whether that means, you know, I think PSG are favourites for this. The AI has them a massive 67%. They have looked unbelievable. They looked so good against Liverpool. They did lose in the group stages to Bayern Munich and Atletico Madrid, PSG. But since then, they've sort of steamrolled everyone they've come up against. As you mentioned, a lot of these heavy victories have been in Ligue 1. They beat Saint Etienne 6-1. They beat Dunkirk 4-2. They beat Marseille 3-1. So they score a lot of goals. Right? Dembele seems to have cooled off from where he was previously. I think he'd scored something like 12 goals in 8 games, but across the last 10 games, he's not been quite as hot. He's just got 9 goals. But as you mentioned, this is a Villa side that have really found some form. They've won 7 in a row now, and they've got Unai Emery at the helm, as you mentioned, who's one of the most experienced European managers out there and a real master tactician. They've also got one thing at Aston Villa that you know, the data won't account for because it's such a small sample size, but they've got real depth now. You know, they've got options that they can use to change a game, no problem. And I think PSG, we know that they always seem to be a bit soft-centred because the opposition that they play each week don't really test them. And I think there's definitely a blueprint to get at them. I think Liverpool showed it, but as you mentioned, that was a Liverpool side that was stuttering and weren't quite as fluent. But I think if you're really direct, you go long against PSG, and Villa definitely have the players to do that with Rodgers, Rashford, Watkins, Asensio. I think if they go direct and they're physical, they could really have a chance here. And I think Emery, he'll be so well prepared for this game that every player on that pitch will know exactly what they need to do. One thing I would say is Villa haven't been anywhere near as good away from home all season. They've relied on their home form, and there might be an element of let's do a bit of damage limitation. Let's go to Paris, and if we come back with 2-1 or 1-0, we might take that and turn up the atmosphere at Villa Park and try and roll them over. So if you put a gun to my head, I'd say that PSG will probably win this, but I don't think it will be a rout, and I don't think that it will be a heavily one-sided game. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if over the two legs it goes to extra time. So I found it hard to make a pick on this. I really have, because as I mentioned, Dembele was on blistering form, but he's been scoring less goals recently. Kvaratskhelia is a really, really good player, obviously, but he's quite a maverick player, I'd say. I'm going to go with Dembele's shot on target. Across the last 10, he's averaged 1.4 per game. And I'm also going to go with over 2.5 in this game too, because I wouldn't be surprised if Villa scored with those kind of players that I mentioned, Rashford on the counter, Watkins up there, but PSG will definitely score as well. So maybe I should have gone with both teams to score, but I'm going to go with over 2.5.
Yeah, I think this is the thing, is that this is probably a game of goals. Unai Emery, I just wanted to say as well, because you mentioned it with Lewandowski, with the old player, old club effect. Unai Emery is going to have a lot of grievances here with PSG, and I don't know if that will make him even more tactically conservative than usual. He'll kind of want to rile up the PSG board, who similar to like Arsenal, didn't treat him too well. Aston Villa, defensively very worrying this season. Yes, they've been second in the league since about 14th of February with 14 points from 7 games. XG's been quite high, but also very weak in terms of defence with 10.74 XG conceded in this run. Also this season, they've conceded 4 goals at Crystal Palace, 3 at Tottenham, Chelsea and Newcastle. They're not keeping the clean sheets. They're not playing amazingly well. And so I think that, clean sheets will not be here at all. However, Unai Emery is a specialist at this. PSG are not full of the talent that they once were. They're probably a better team rather than the individuals. But I think Aston Villa are very, very well organised. And like you said there, they've got a really good plethora of talents on the pitch, but also on the bench. My question is about Ollie Watkins. He's not been as prolific this season. He's not been on great form. He was rested, and he has been rested to kind of play up to this game. But is it going to be in time for him? He averaged over 1 goal involvement per 90 last season. I think it's around 0.67 per 90 this season. Is this game a little bit too soon for him, Ollie?
It could be, yeah. It could be. He's not looked good recently. In fact, he's had a bit of a disappointing season, as you say. I think he's one of the biggest underperformers in front of goal in the Premier League. And he's obviously got some competition from Rashford now, who can play that position as well. And we've seen him play that position. But I think his sort of channel running ability that he's so well known for now, and the way that he plays as a proper number 9 will just suit the style of play that Villa will need to use if they're going to beat PSG or they're going to get a result here, because I think they will go direct, they will go long, and I think that will suit his play style nicely. So you'd obviously rather have him fit and firing and scoring goals left, right and rhubarb, but I think they'll play him anyway. And I think that if he gets a chance, he has scored big goals before. He's done it for England, he's done it in the Premier League for Villa, he's done it in the Champions League as well. He's scored goals. So he'll go into it confident, thinking that if he gets a chance, he'll score it. But I think the real danger comes from Rashford and Asensio.
Betting predictions with this one. Let's get those on the board and then say bye-bye to everybody.
Yeah, I think, as I say, I found it hard to make picks for this one, which is never a good sign. So rather than, go too confident and go and dive in two-footed when I don't have that level of confidence, I'm just going to go for Dembele shot on target, and I'm going to amend what I said previously and go for both teams to score.
Oh, you stole my both teams to score. Yeah, I'm not too confident with this one. Both teams to score. I was going to say over 2.5 goals, but I think I'll just play it easy with just both teams to score, because I think with all the other matches, there's a lot to talk about, whereas this one has the highest number of variables and it's probably best to play it safe. Let's hear it from you guys. Do join in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe for the best kind of analysis and content that we have on all football. We do mostly the Premier League, but also Champions League. But for now, I'm going to wish everybody the best of luck. Have fun with the Champions League, and we will see you again very soon for a Premier League preview as well.